Welcome to the great meeting of the Rotary Club of South Jacksonville. It's a great day to be a member of Rotary. We ask that you silence your phone and conversations, and if you're attending on Zoom, we welcome you also and ask that you mute yourself. My thanks to Les Loggins for welcoming our guests today. And I would like to invite Past President Richard Dow up to lead our pledge and prayer.
You interrupted me. I was praying that the other person would show up and pray. Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, gracious God, we acknowledge your lordship and your power by saying that we understand that it takes a lot of work to shepherd this nation and our world. We pray that you do so today, but especially tomorrow after the election results begin to gel and we understand what's ahead. We need your wisdom. We need your love. We need your sense of unity. And so we pray for these things, trusting that you will give them. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, good. Okay, there's the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go.
Thank you, Richard. I'm now going to ask that Bill Langley introduce his guest today.
Yes, I'm glad to have with me again my daughter, Melissa Langley. She's a political development coordinator with the Ferentino Group.
President Dean Scott has a guest.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce my wife, Laurie. Stay up, Laurie. Yes, the Chief Executive Officer of Integrity Public Finance Consulting. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good seeing you again, Lori. And then I'd also like to recognize Lisa Kennedy and Bernie Lucking and welcome them back again. And we look forward to the long-term relationship that's in the works with each of you. All right, Maestro.
Oh, okay.
We here in Rotary welcome you today. So glad you came along, glad you came our way. Our hand of fellowship is yours, sunshine or in rain. We here in Rotary say welcome, come again.
Hold on, don't leave. We need you again in just a moment. All right, we have some very significant birthdays today. Ron Patrick, not sure what his age, but today is his birthday, and Ed Vaughn, it's your birthday. And Richard Dow's birthday is tomorrow, right? All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Ron and Richard. All right. I miss a week and I stumble right. Yeah, okay. All right. Just a reminder to everyone to put the Gingerbread House Extravaganza setup on the calendar for next week. Our setup date and time is November 16th from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m.
Can I ask real quick, just for a show of hands, for those that can help us? Love you guys. Love you. Thank you.
And do we need to bring any special equipment or just ourselves?
Bring yourselves, if you got, what do we normally need? Gloves, you need anything? Gloves, that's a good idea. Yeah, what else? A sense of good taste. Michelle normally brings that. But anything else? Oh, donuts, that's coffee or donuts. So you're ready. Okay.
All right. All right. And Casey, if you would tell us about bell ringing this year.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, once again, it's December 2nd, so it's a Friday, starting at 10 and at 7. Sign up if you're interested, and we'll get you listed and kind of get the roster out as soon as we get all the slots filling. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for heading that up. A reminder that there's an all-club Rotary mixer at Kingmaker Brewing on King Street tomorrow from 5 to 7 p.m. There's a little flyer on each of your tables today. So come on out, bring a friend, and enjoy meeting members from other Rotary clubs. Yes.
Patty asked me to also mention, she said she forgot to mention to you, the Monday before Thanksgiving, the 21st, the Downtown Rotary is having all the mayoral candidates, and everyone's invited. So she just needs to know if you're going to be going, so she can pass that along, but that'll be on that Monday at the Downtown Rotary.
All right. All right. Finally, Jax win yesterday. So this is a reminder to get with Patty if you wish to purchase Jags tickets for the remaining 2 games being sponsored by District 6970. And reminder, our club will receive Polio Plus credit for all but $15 of each ticket purchase. So the 2 remaining dates are the November 27th game against the Ravens and the January 8th game against the Titans. So just get with Patty and sign up for that. All right. I'm sad to report, as part of the family of Rotary, is that Tom Rainey's mom, Janet Rainey, passed away peacefully surrounded by her family this past Saturday night. She went to meet her husband, Tom, who passed away in July of 2020, and who was a member of our club for 39 years. Services will be this Friday at South Jacksonville Presbyterian Church in San Marco at 10:30 a.m. with reception following their home at 1301 Red Bud Lane. There will not be a viewing. So please lift up your thoughts and prayers to Tom and his family during this time. All right, let me see. Man, we're moving right along this way. Happy dollars. Almost forgot. All right, I'll recognize Ms. Marie for Happy Dollars.
All right. Get the bucket. Now we can put the hat on. Because that makes everybody happy. See this on, right? For Bill Trayer especially. All right, well, I'm going to start it off. I'll have Patty bill my account because I didn't bring any cash today. Obviously, stole my thunder with my friend Ed Vaughn's birthday today. Happy for that and being able to celebrate that with him this weekend. He, his wife, and my husband and I are going to take a road trip, so I'm looking forward to that. Another happy dollar moment that I'd like to share real quick is my son Aiden, who is our middle child, and middle children always are trying to find in their way. After turning down West Point, has decided to go to UNF and got accepted. So we got an acceptance letter. So we're excited about that. And then last but not least, my husband and I had an amazing time in Napa Valley a couple weeks ago while I wasn't here, and just feeling blessed that I was able to experience that and enjoy that time with him. So there's my happy dollar moment. Mr. Harris.
All right.
As we get older, we tend to sort of back off on community, and we back off on a lot of the things that we do to find other things that are important to us. I want to recognize William Carroll. For those of you that don't have time to spend with him, he's a new neighbor. I've never seen anybody more active in the community with the ship that's come abroad, with World Affairs Council. If you've got the time to share with what he's doing in this community, each of us would be just thrilled. So I've never seen anybody in his age. He was very much keep his foot on the gas the way he has, and make us so proud that we're Rotarians and even to be associated with both. If you have time to share spend a few minutes with him. It's an incredible experience with he and Barbara.
Thank you. A little bit of sour molasses there.
Well, we have a $10 bill, so we're gonna split it and say something. Thank you. I am just so excited to be in Florida, sitting on our lanai last night, reading a book where it was snowing. So I love being here and I look forward to being part of this group.
Come from for Seahawks fans, Russell Wilson and all that stuff going on. Down here, I'm trying to situation here, Trevor Lawrence, Jaguars. So I've watched some of the games over the weekend. I watched the game, thinking, when it's gonna throw that stupid ball. And he never did. They won the game.
All right.
I just want to say I'm grateful for the fact that Rotary did not know it, but my wife had surgery this past week on Wednesday and had surgery for cancer of the lung. It was done with a robot using minimally invasive techniques, perfect surgery, perfect recovery. She's at home with me. Fine, I was able to leave her at home by herself. So I just want people to be aware of that I'm very pleased with.
Well, we hope the prognosis is good. Glad to hear the good.
I've got one, and I'll ask Patty to fill me as well. And I just want to express my happiness and let you all know that on Wednesday and Thursday, the Florida tree trimming service comes through tomorrow and the next day, and it will trim out a lot of the dead wood and live and other whatever in your trees in your house. So no charge, no charge, no charge. So, enjoy.
Yeah.
My happy dollars go to the Jaguars winning on Sunday and our guest speaker explaining to me the reason for several fourth quarter calls on the part of Coach Peters.
Wow, I'm already off to a good start.
And on that, contributions. All right, thank you so much. Thank you all.
All right. Once again, Harlan Frost and Bill Traer are not here. So again, we will have to wait for further word about Paul Harris and whether his idea of Rotary would ever succeed. All right. So do we have Jay Plotkin on? Jay?
I'm here.
All right, Jay, would you please introduce our guest speaker?
Thank you, President Charlie. Just on a personal note, and Patty can charge me if appropriately to my account, but I thought I was going to be there today. The wedding went great. I isolated forever, and then we had a bunch of COVID people positive at the wedding afterwards, so I'm staying away from all you good people. But having said that, it's my pleasure to introduce Jaguars broadcaster Brian Sexton as our guest speaker today. Brian, as you saw in the Rotary, is now into his 29th NFL season, which is pretty amazing. He's one of only 3 people who has seen all 500 and I guess it's over 568 now since I read this bio, games that the Jaguars have played since their inaugural season in 1995. I'll leave it to Brian to tell us whether that's a good thing or if just he's a glutton for punishment. But Brian joined the Jaguars in October of 1994 as the voice of the Jaguars, which is a role he held through the first 19 seasons of Jaguar football. And in 2014, he took on the duties of Jaguars.com senior correspondent. And he's also the director of the Jaguars, director of alumni relations. You might have seen in the gear this interesting factoid that once he was on the ABC hit show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, he won $32,000 and was subsequently named to the Jacksonville Business Journal's 40 under 40 list. I don't know if that was related to winning the money or not, but he did neglect to say that I actually was his phone a friend that enabled him to get that last question right, but that's okay, Brian. I told Brian that we're going to require him to speak every week as long as we're winning. So hopefully we'll see Brian for the next 10 weeks or so in a row. But it is our pleasure to welcome Brian. Brian has a wonderful family that lives in Atlantic Beach with his 3 children, his lovely wife, and please give Brian Sexton a warm South Jacksonville welcome.
I know now that you are reading the version that I wrote. The version that my wife wrote says that I was a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and lost $968,000. Right? That's my wife. Hey, welcome. I'm welcoming you. I'm glad to be here. Let me tell you how I do it, and then we'll roll. My presentation is really pretty short. It's more fun if we do Q&A, right? But can they hear me? Can you guys hear me? Jay, can you hear me? Testing.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. You can see me. That's what matters, right? I'll give you a couple thoughts, and then we'll just roll and have some fun with this. By the way, I speak at the Ponte Vedra Rotary every year. It was the first Rotary Club I ever spoke to, and I was 25 years old, and the Jaguars had just hired me, and I showed up dressed like this, and they looked like, who is this rube from Kansas that comes to a Rotary meeting wearing shorts? And do you know that I have been there every year now for 28 years, and they all now wear shorts every time I come. So if I come back next week, I expect everybody to be dressed for the golf. Mary Alice, I feel like I've got to explain your comments. Mary Alice asked me why up 4 in the fourth quarter last week, they would go for the field goal instead of go for the 4th down and try to eat up more clock. And it's funny because I asked Doug Peterson that in the Giants game. They had the ball 4th and a yard, not even a yard, half a yard, with 11.5 minutes to go. And it seemed to me with a young team that had lost a couple of games in a row, the smart play was kick the field goal, go up by a touchdown, and try and coax them out of that losing streak and get them the win that they so desperately needed. And he told me after the game, he said, you know what this season is about. It's about establishing how we're going to play and what we're going to do. And I want them to know that I expect that we're going to get 18 inches when we need it. And so I played it that way. We lost, it stinks, but I'm going to coach like I'm going to coach every game. All right, it made sense to me. And then this week, he kicked the field goal. And I said to him after the game, I go, what gives, Doug? He goes, I was tired of losing. So, I mean, at some point, it pulls on you, left and right. I'm excited to watch the Jaguars and Chiefs on Sunday, not because I think the Jaguars are going to go up and shock the world and beat the Chiefs. Maybe they do. I'm not going into it that way, but I'm excited to watch Doug Peterson and Andy Reid. Doug and Andy were together in Green Bay in the mid-90s when Andy was a coach and Doug was a backup player. And then, of course, he followed him to Philly, and then he coached for him in Philly, and then followed him to Kansas City, where he was the offensive coordinator. And I'm setting this up because I think that Doug Peterson is as good an X's and O's coach, a chess-playing head coach, as we've seen here since Tom Coughlin. He really understands the game. He came in as an undrafted rookie with Dan Marino and Don Shula. Not a bad place to start. And then went with Reed and Mike Holmgren and Brett Favre in Green Bay in the mid-90s. And then, of course, you know the rest of his story. He won Super Bowl as a head coach. The guy just gets it. And he understands where he wants to be with this team, which leads me to the quarterback. Because in this league, if you have the coach, you have 50% of what you need. If you have the quarterback, you generally have the other 50%. And we have not had that since Tom Coughlin and Mark Brunell were together back, how many years ago has it been? Since 2002, 20 years since those two guys were there. Or you would have the quarterback, but now we haven't had the quarterback. So Doug, is this being recorded? This better not show up anywhere. Doug does a little off the record with some of us on Fridays. Some of the guys who've been around, old timers, right? I was 25 when I got here. It's nice to be called an old timer. So I can't recall whether he said this off the record or not, but I'll tell you. We were asking about Trevor's development because we've seen some of this. And he said, look, when he got the job, he picked up Clemson's film and watched, and he started identifying things that he needed to fix. Things that the college game doesn't do, or things that the college game does do that don't translate to Sundays. It's such a different game in terms of the size-speed ratio, the hash marks, the strategy. It's different. So he has a long list of, well, we got to fix this and this and this. Well, what didn't happen last year was the coach, whose name I will almost never say, because he was an unmitigated disaster. There's not many people in that building that would say his name either. You hear sometimes and you think, well, that's exaggeration. I exaggerate for a living, let me tell you. It's no exaggeration what a disaster that man was. He fixed nothing because he knew nothing about a professional quarterback. And so last year, Trevor was trying to figure it out on his own without a whole lot of talent, without any real direction from the head coach. And so this year, you hear the term young quarterback, first year in Doug's system. That really holds some weight because what Doug is doing is going back, and what professional coaches do is help guys make the transition. You don't just plug in and play, right? Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions as a rookie. 28. This kid threw 17. You don't have to throw him overboard all of a sudden because he's making some stupid mistakes. Now look, I was like everyone else in London. When he rolled right, I went, no! As he threw the ball into the end zone, I just put my head in my hands, right? I knew you have a red zone turnover in the National Football League, your chance of winning drops 64%. That's analytics, absolutely. 6% chance to win if you turn the ball over in the red zone. I knew it was coming. But Doug gets it, and he understands how to bring this kid along. So all week, last week, he's working with him in the film. He's working with him on the practice field. He's built a brain trust of guys around him. And he let them do their job. And do you know, they fell behind. And yet this kid, over the course of 4 drives, completed 13 of 16 passes and took them from down 17 and got them back into the game. That's the kind of coaching that you don't necessarily see on a week in, week out basis because the coach and quarterback are playing at a higher level. But these two guys are figuring it out together. So I don't know what the record is. I thought before the season it would probably be a 7-win team if everything went right. I don't know whether you've noticed, but everything is not going right this season. But they still look to me with 8 games left like they can get to 6 or 7 wins. And they traded this last week for a kid that's out this year named Calvin Ridley. He's the alpha receiver they haven't had since Jimmy Smith. They're talking to all the right people. They're confident that he'll be ready to play when he gets in here next year. I just think that this thing is, as we were talking about Mary Alice, she didn't use the term long suffering, but I sensed it in her as a long time season ticket holder. And maybe Jay said it. I don't know, maybe you said it. 29 years, I've seen a lot of losses. I've seen some great moments too. I don't know, I got here when this team in this town were just first getting together and everything was new. And I had a dream that this to me, I'm from Kansas, okay? And Kansas is a perfectly nice place. And I'm grateful for my time there. But this was the shining city on the hill to me. I came here to be a sportscaster, which my dad told me I didn't have the talent to do. True story. And I reminded him when he was down here this last weekend of it as he walked on the beach. I never let some things die. I have a long memory. I met my wife at the radio stations. I have 3 Eagle Scout football sons, who are going through or been through Bishop Kenny. I have seen Jacksonville grow. I see exponential opportunities still here, as I know all of you people do. It's been an amazing ride. I'll take a loss on a Sunday afternoon. I get to live in Jacksonville, Florida. I think this is the Green Bay of the South. I think eventually this team in this town will be a destination where people want to come. And I want to go see a game in Jacksonville. Like I say, I want to go see a game at Lambeau Field. To me, that's coming. And by the way, I'll throw this out there and let you consider it, and we'll open it up for questions. When I say Pittsburgh Steelers, are there any Steelers fans in here? That's a rarity, as you guys know. There are Steeler fans everywhere, right? When I say Pittsburgh Steelers, what do you think of? Excellence, right? I mean, they've won 6 championships. They've had since the day I was born in 1968, I just turned 54, right? 3 coaches in 54. All you think of is excellence. A dozen Hall of Famers, Chuck Noll, right? The terrible towels, all of that stuff. You think excellence. How many winning seasons did the Pittsburgh Steelers have from 1929, which was their founding, right? It was the year, by the way, that the chief, Art Rooney Sr., saved the franchise by putting his last $1,000 in at the horse race, right? To make payroll. That's a true story. To 1972, He saved that franchise to 1972 when Franco Harris caught the ball out of the air for the immaculate reception. How many winning seasons in a span of 43 years? Does anybody know? None. Not one. They were the same old Steelers, right? Art Rooney Sr. or Cigar and his same old Steelers, right? I mean, they were terrible. But does anybody remember that? No. Because in February of 1970, there was a coin toss between the Bears and the Steelers for the right to draft Terry Bradshaw. And Terry Bradshaw went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they won 4 Super Bowls in his 12 years. And the Pittsburgh Steelers became the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Chicago Bears, by the way, over the same 12 years, had 11 different quarterbacks, right? That's how fickle it can be with the quarterback. I believe in this kid. I think you guys will too by the time this season is over. I think our moment is now. And I think that Jacksonville has a very, very, very bright future. And of course, I've kind of seen some of the designs of what they want to do over there with the stadium and with the riverfront. This place will be the Green Bay of the South. In fact, they may say Green Bay is the Jacksonville of the North by the time it happens, but we'll see. So what questions do you have? Thoughts? Irreverent? It doesn't, now you know Charlie's daughter and I work together. So be real careful of what you say to him, but you don't have to worry about me. I'll go with that lady right there. Yes, ma'am.
I know that they always talk about quarterbacks and, I'm still learning about football. Everything I know is Seahawks. Yeah.
Oh, you had a pretty good one there.
So, yeah. He wasn't good at partnerships with other team members, I think, and I think this year it's being proven.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So besides quarterbacks,
Yes, ma'am.
do you see good relationships being formed? Good,
I do.
You've got to have that.
I do, and the culture of a team. Culture is one of those overused words in sports and politics these days. It's like celebrity, right? You just start throwing it around, and everybody attaches it to everything. In 2017, the Jaguars had the most talented defense I had seen since the '85 Bears, right? They scored 7 touchdowns on defense. They led the league with 49 sacks that year. They single-handedly helped a team with Blake Bortles as the quarterback get to within 6 minutes and 34 seconds of the Super Bowl, right? The defense was awesome, but it was also filled with less than desirable human beings. In particular, we had a cornerback named Jalen Ramsey. I remember Jalen. Yeah. Pardon my French. Jalen was one of the great asses I have ever been around, and I've been in 29 years for the locker rooms. He was a horrible person to have in the locker room. He is, and his corrosive personality, right, rubbed off on some other young players. And before you knew it, you had this incredibly talented room full of athletic men that could have been great for multiple seasons. And all of a sudden they're thinking about themselves and their stats and how they were being treated in the press and how they were being treated, where their seat on the airplane was. Yeah, I mean, it dissolved. It was acidic. It was terrible. And I blame it all on him. And anybody who's in that locker room can't argue with me. It was Jalen's fault. People hated to see a talent like that go, but the person, goodbye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, right? So it is really important to have good people. And I'll give you just one name, and you probably won't know it, but his name is DeJuan Smoot. DeJuan's a 3rd-round pick here from Illinois in 2017. He saw all of that, right? DeJuan is a really good guy and a very solid football player, not a star, but a really solid football player, right? He's been here. He's endured. He has done anything they've asked of him. He leads the team with 6 sacks, right? Which is amazing. Going into a contract here. He'll rush the passer if you ask him to do it, which is the sexy part about being a defensive end. He'll get his hand down on the ground and go line up inside, and he'll stop the run. He'll play on special teams. If you need him to, he'll deliver his own child in the back of his wife's car, right? I mean, DeJuan is one of those guys that he just draws people to him. And we've got a locker room full of those guys. They're all really good young men. Not perfect, because as one wise man once told me, football is not a game for well-adjusted men. But we do have a locker room with a lot of guys that when this team is winning and you see them more in the public and national television, more stories about Jaguars winning as opposed to same old Jaguars, right? You'll be like, that's a team that I can put my arms around, right? That's a team that I want my kids and my grandkids to watch. That's somebody that if we're in a bar or a restaurant or Ruth's Chris on a Friday night and DeJuan is there, I feel like I could go up and say hello and introduce myself, right? The culture that matters immensely in a locker room. There's lots of talented players, coach, quarterback, and culture. You got to have all three. You can't skip on any one of them. Yes, sir.
So, as a follow-up to your culture.
Yeah.
Confidence. Tell us how confident you are that Calvin is going to fit into that culture.
It's a great question. I mean, the minute they made the trade, I knew why they did it, right? Because if you saw the end of the Colts Commanders game 2 weeks ago, right? Terry McLaurin went up at the goal line against Stephon Gilmore, who's an all-pro cornerback, and took the ball away, right? He made that above the X and O's play that a quarterback has to have. So the minute they traded for Ridley, I went, okay, I get it. And I talked to some people that day who told me that when he left the game, he was a top 5 receiver. I can tell you that I know some of the people that they're talking to. The NFL, we're talking an $11 million gamble on this kid, who, if you don't know, had 90 catches for 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns before leaving the game in 2020. He called them mental health reasons. We found out later that he had been gambling, right? And had gambled on an NFL game. Not a huge amount, like $1,500, right? But hey, by the way, when you promote gambling, which the league does now, you got to expect a little of that, right? No, it's ridiculous. That's a whole different. So how confident are they? I don't know that they would take an 11, not that 11 million in the bigger scheme of a $200 million salary cap is that big of a risk, especially not with an owner who's willing to spend it. But when you're the general manager, you have to go to explain to the owner how the kid with 11 million of his dollars is leaving without giving us anything. That makes you dig. So they have gone to great lengths to talk to, strength and conditioning coaches at universities where he has worked out, and things like that to find out. There is a gamble to it, but people who know him that I have talked to say he really is a good kid. He made a mistake. He's going to get another chance. He won't blow it this time. I'm trusting their word because I know these guys. Oh, I sure hope he is. Because finding those guys, it's a premium position, right? Devontae Adams, who had the big first half here the other day. If you wanted him, he never got to the free agent market. It cost you a 1, a 2, and $65 million guaranteed dollars. Mike Williams in LA never got to the market. Tyreek Hill cost a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, 2 5s, and a 6, and $100 million. So you can kind of understand why they say, all right, we'll give him a 5, and then if we like him enough to keep him, we'll give him a 2, and it's going to cost us $11 million. That's a really smart, very calculated risk, and they've mitigated it, they believe, by doing their homework on the kid. So I don't know him personally. I never covered Alabama, but I know the league is very small, and I know a lot of people who have interacted and dealt with him and had nothing but good things to say about him and how disappointed they were to learn that he would be suspended. So
now, when can he join the team?
So he can reapply, or sorry, he can apply for reinstatement in February.
And he cannot work out.
No, he came in and passed the physical is all they know. They can't have any contact. Now, they can't have any contact with it. Doesn't mean they don't have any contact with it, right? I mean, let's be honest about that. I said football's not a game for well-adjusted men. That includes coaches and general managers who want to keep their exorbitant salaries flowing, right? They're hyper competitive, and they find ways to talk to the agent, to talk to the neighbor, to talk to the kid. Funny how that works. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they're skirting the law, the rules. They'll stay within it as much as they can, but there'll be little subtle messages sent. But if he's reinstated, he'll be here in April of next year, and they'll try to get him up to speed. A great player, yeah, above the X's and O's for sure. I'm going to go to this gentleman here, and then I'll come back to you, Les.
When they changed the deal with college,
Yeah,
where kids can make more,
yeah,
and kids were already, weird mind space, in that they didn't. I heard somebody say the element of maturing,
right,
and facing reality when they're getting those sorts of experiences of being able to sell themselves at 20.
yeah.
Have you seen any change in the ability to draft those good people that you're talking about?
I say it's been so new. The whole NIL, the name and licensing effort, and kids getting paid above board, right? Because college football is not a game for well-adjusted men either. It's so new. I don't know that we've seen it, but I'll tell you this, you can tell a kid who comes into the locker room who understands the business side of it, right? They get it real fast. They're not here to hear the band on Saturday afternoon and to make everybody happy. They're there to win football games because they're competing against grown men who are feeding their families. So when you step into that locker room, you step into a pit, sort of, and you're competing every day to stay there. And if you can't, you're playing next to a guy and that guy can't count on you, he wants you out as much as the coach does, right? So you see some of these college kids that come in and their eyes are really big because, oh, right? These guys, they don't mess around. They don't. Those guys don't last if they mess around. They say to the coaches, this guy can't play. So I'm not sure I answered your question completely, but it is a meat grinder in the NFL for these guys who are willing to do whatever it takes to earn that salary, because there aren't many places you can go right out of college and get $5 million guaranteed. I know the broadcasting could not. I'm gonna go back to us and now. Yes, sir.
How do you compare the Weaver regime versus the Kahn regime?
That is an unfair question because I'm so emotionally tied to Wayne Weaver. I love that man. If you don't know, I think by the time he paid his partners and any debt off, he walked away with almost $300 million from the sale of the franchise. I think that's right. And I think half of it's been given away. Half of it, if it's not been given away, has been designated to be donated. The Weavers are so close to my heart. I barely know Mr. Kahn, right? And I've been in a high profile position over there, and he knows what I do, but I'm not sure he knows if I'm Brian or Jeff, right? I mean, you just, because he's never here. He's got this empire that's just so different. That I asked him once, are you ever in the same time zone more than one day? And he said no, because he kept on walking, right? Not very often. He's got 36 auto parts plants in 19 countries around the world. So it's very, very different. I'll say this. I don't know that the Jaguars would still be in Jacksonville. In fact, I don't think they would if it wasn't for someone like Kahn, right? He came in not just with the means to remake the franchise and to craft deals where he could build an amphitheater and have a concert business that would generate revenue, right? He has brought Mark Lamping in, and Mark's the guy that changed the radio deal that moved me around in my role. But Mark is really super smart, and they're building this practice facility so they can deconstruct the stadium and rebuild the stadium and redo the waterfront. He was willing to grow the pie. Mr. Weaver was looking for a piece of the pie. Shad came in and said, I'll build a bigger pie, and then if it's good for everyone, then I'll be able to charge the ticket price I need. It's just a completely different perspective. That was old world family, and the NFL is anything but. Now the Walton family has bought the Broncos for almost $5 billion. Who knows who's going to buy the Commanders for almost $7 billion is what Dan Snyder wants. Mr. Kahn is part of the new world of corporate ownership, and it's the billionaires club now. And so it's tough for me, not knowing him like I know Mr. Weaver, to compare him. The record says it isn't as good, but they've got the coach and the quarterback now. It won't be long to turn it around. And I'll tell you this, people ask me all the time about this London thing of the Jaguars. There's no chance to go anywhere. Not with what he's building over there, not with what his plans are over there. They'll always play a game in London, but I got news for you. The Buccaneers are going to play a game from here in perpetuity in Munich, right? The only way you're going to grow the NFL is not by having more teams, but more markets. So the NFL will play games in Munich and London, Barcelona. They'll play in Rio de Janeiro. They'll play in Vancouver. They'll play more games in more places because it grows the game, but there will never be more than 32 teams. There just won't. Does that answer your question? The Weavers are so dear to me. I saw a video, we did the Vaselli documentary, unveiled it the night before the Texans game, the Hall of Fame. And Wayne, it was the first time I'd seen him in 3 or 4 years. And the whole audience gasped because he looked sick. Everyone was like, right, if you haven't seen him in a while, he's 84 years old. That man coming here to Jacksonville and getting that franchise locked down and then finding someone who would keep it here, there ought to be a street or two named after him. And I believe that. So, yeah.
We'll talk about your game day partner.
Which one?
Fred.
Yeah, love Fred.
So what is the realistic chances that his opportunity to join the Hall of Fame will follow this summer?
It'll take a while. We're more of a passing league now, so guess what we do? We put wide receivers and cornerbacks in the Hall of Fame. It rolls, right? Fred has highlights. He has 90-yard touchdowns and 80-yard touchdowns. And the hard part for Fred Taylor to get in the Hall of Fame is that he's sort of in between the old school writers, the crusty old writers, right? That got on planes carrying typewriters when their career started. Well, they're gone now. Those were the guys who were the Hall of Fame voters who were there during his career. Now you got a bunch of typewriter kids, right? A bunch of computer kids, all young because the business doesn't pay anymore like it used to, right? Social media's totally changed the media world. Anybody can be a journalist now with a phone. So you've got a lot of guys who are new and a lot of guys who don't know the game. And they don't cover it the same way. It's all done, over Zoom and Twitter. And so they don't know Fred. So there's going to get, some guys are going to get lost in the wash. And Fred could easily be one of those playing in Jacksonville and not playing in Dallas. They'll make a concerted effort to get him in. I mean, they will put everything behind it again to see if you can get it there. But the voters who will vote and decide on Fred Taylor are likely to be people who didn't watch him play. And that makes it a much bigger challenge when you don't have Super Bowl rings. Does he belong? Yeah. Fred Taylor is one of the all-time greats. He belongs. What else? Yes, sir.
So speaking of running game, so Robinson traded, ETN seems to be our primary back, and then there's a big drop off.
There is.
And so they're using him a lot. We saw it on Sunday.
Mhm.
Really use him. Can you talk a little about the strategy there and what do we need for a second back?
Well, you need to. They hope that Snoop Connor, the kid that they drafted from Ole Miss, is ready to take some reps. They traded James Robinson, who's been the most productive back around here for the last couple of years, because he wasn't fully healthy, right? He cost them nothing. He was an undrafted rookie, and they got a 5th-round pick for a guy they weren't going to keep. Doug Peterson is a modern football coach. He is not going to line it up and run it 50% of the time and throw it 50% of the time. He's going to throw it until he has to run it. That's the way the game is played today. So it made sense to get something from nothing for James. Plus, James wasn't happy because he knew that he needed 25 carries. He was one of those guys that got stronger as the game went along, and Doug just wasn't going to do that. When you have a quarterback, you don't need a star running back. You'll take one if you can get it. But Patrick Mahomes, who's his running back? Nobody knows, right? I'm old school with you. I mean, I like Fred's my favorite. Maurice, and give me more of those. James Stewart, who lives out at the beaches. I mean, I give you those guys, but that's not the way this one thinks. So the strategy is to give the ball to Travis Etienne as many times as he can handle it. And he wants it. And I have to tell you, if you follow the Jaguars at all, you know that they spent a 1st-round pick on the kid from Clemson last year, the second kid from Clemson. And he broke the Liz Frank bone, right? It's called the Liz Frank injury in his foot. We had a running back in 2018 that did the same thing in Corey Grant, and we never saw him again. Literally, from 2018 until Alumni Weekend in October of this year, I didn't see him again. 4 years. Not rehabbing, not trying to come back. He was done. So the fact that Travis is on the field playing is a win, and playing really well. It's a major win. He's the guy right now because they don't have a receiver who can be the guy. When Ridley gets here, it'll be Ridley and ETN, and then hopefully a tight end emerges. The strategy is, Trevor, give it to Travis. Travis, how you feel? Let's go again. It's a great story, and he's a great kid. I hope he can keep it together and not, because he's only 215 pounds, And Fred Taylor was 230 and ran faster. True story. We're sitting at the desk on Sunday, and Trevor and Travis mixed up sometimes. Travis Etienne, there we go. You get it, right? Clemson, Trevor Taylor. You're all looking at me like I'm crazy. And I am. I work in football too. So ETN got through the line for about 9 yards, and Fred goes, "I would have scored." Yeah, right, as a gamer, you can appreciate that. I said, "Fred, you say that after every run." He goes, right? You just, so just keep giving it to him until he can't go anymore. And, you know, running backs, draft them. The average career of an NFL player is 3.5 years. For a running back, it's 2.4. It's, yeah, those guys take a beating. That's why when you pay them, I never begrudge those guys for getting paid. The ones that do. What else? I know you guys all have to go back to work.
Feeling and feeling about refereeing. Do we need full-time NFL referees? It seems we've had some problems.
The thing
What
is,
kind of feedback mechanisms are there?
They want accountability, and they've got that now. Every official is judged after every game, and they give each guy a score. And if you want playoff games, you have to score a certain level. If you don't get the playoff games, and of course, the playoffs are where all the money is, right? So these guys get the bonus, they want the extra games. I don't think full-time officials matter because there's only 17 games. What are they going to do the rest of the year, right? As it is, you know, these guys are lawyers, doctors, they have insurance brokerages. I mean, they work just like everyone else, but they do spend an awful lot of time in virtual meetings. They get to the city on Friday, and there's a meeting on Saturday morning where they sit and watch tape of the two teams and talk about tendencies. They talk to the coaches. They get there early on Sunday. They do a lot of work. It's almost like a full-time job, but I just don't know what you would accomplish by having them 52 weeks a year, because you know the 20 weeks of the regular season and the preseason is like 2 jobs. I mean, they're working a lot. The accountability is about the only way you can do it. You know, the other thing is the game moves so fast. Yeah. I mean, I see things. I'm like, come on, what? And then I had an official, you know, kind of take me through it and say, I got to see this. My job is here, but you want me to see this. And this guy's moving at 4.3, and this guy's moving at 4.25. You know, it does go so fast. I stood on the sidelines for a game for the first time after they changed the radio deal in 2014, and I went, thank God I don't play this game. I mean, it is big men that run fast and hit hard. And you're asking these officials to not only manage their own safety in the course of the game, because everything's going in front of them, but to see everything too. I'm from St. Louis originally, and I went to high school in Kansas City, and in 1985, they had the I-70 World Series. Remember the Cardinals and the Royals? And in Game 6, Don Denkinger, I remember the name of the first base umpire because he screwed up a call. Garth Org was out. The Cardinals melted down. The Royals won Game 6, came back and won Game 7, won the World Series. Didn't end the game. You know, the Cardinals are going to win 3 more World Series since the Royals went 30 years before winning another one. But I guess the point is it's a human game. There is the potential for human error. And we remember those moments when the officials give Missouri a 5th down in 1990 against Colorado, right? We laugh about it now. It's just kind of part of the game. Coaches don't laugh about it when it happens, right? But there's only so much fabric of the game. I don't want a computer to box that make. I want the human element of it because that's where the drama is. You know, the football, pro football, is a game of human confrontation. It is. It's men lining up on a cold, wintry day with their breath steaming out from their face masks on 4th down and 1 with the Super Bowl on the line. And it's this guy and it's that guy because the ball's coming right behind him, right? I love that. That's why NFL football is the most popular sport in North America and one of the most popular in the world. I don't want to see it get too orchestrated, just on a particular day. So, yes, I can go to the back and I'll come back this way.
I was just going to say thank you for your enthusiasm. It's unbelievably contagious.
Well, I look, I got to tell you, and I'm just saying this. I love Jackson. I just think the city is just, it's such a great place to live and work and be. When that team is winning, this city is vibed out. There's an energy that courses through it. In 2017, every school on Friday ditched whatever uniform code they had and everybody wore Jaguar stuff, right? The NFL franchise can be a really unifying part of a community, especially one like this, which it feels big because it's got so much to offer, but it's really small in terms of population. I just think the city is fantastic, and I want this team. People have seen me, and they see me, you know, I'm trying not to let people see me cheer. The hell, you know who I want to win, right? And when they got there the other day, I was like, yes. And someone went, wow. And I went, no, man, I want a happy Monday too. I want to go to Publix and have people say that was a great game instead of why do they stink? True story. True story. My wife and I are preachers at St. John the Baptist on Mayport Road, a little small Catholic parish, okay? And there's a little small older lady in there who has watched every game, she tells me. Every single one, Brian. If I haven't been there, I've watched it on TV. She goes, I got a question for you. And I said, yeah. And she said, when are they not going to stink? Right? And I said, I don't know. Hopefully soon. But I'll keep coming back. So, and I'll take any more until the meeting has to end because I know you guys have a calendar. Can I go to this gentleman and then I'll come back here? Two more. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, to be able to do what you're doing as a sports speaker, ambassador for the Jaguars.
Yes, sir.
Being able to comment on all the different players from different teams and being traded. How many hours a week do you spend watching football games?
Do you know, I watch a lot of football, but I have 3 boys. And one is a senior in college and 2 junior and senior at Kenny. So we live it, right? I coach them. We watch it. My wife would tell you I have not worked a day in our marriage, right? And she's like, I would really like him to work a little bit more. It's just part of the part and parcel. And I'm from 3 boys and lots of cousins. To me, it's not even work. But yeah, we watch a lot of football. At the end of, it's funny because last night the boys were like, hey, let's turn on Monday Night Football. I'm like, no, I can't take it anymore. What do you mean? I really, other than the Kansas Jayhawks basketball team, because I'm from Kansas, and the Jaguars and Bishop Kenny, I don't watch sports anymore. I just, you know, whatever. What do you do for a living?
Attorney.
Okay, my twin brother's an attorney, and I said, Terry, do you ever turn on? He goes, I don't pay any attention to it. Right? He doesn't want to have a conversation about the law unless he can lecture me, and then he does. Right? Twin brother, you kind of understand it. He walks away from it. He wants to talk about sports, and I don't want to talk about sports. I want to talk about politics, right? Because he's very involved in politics in Kansas. I live it. I'm blessed to do it. But if you want to talk about election day, I'd be just as excited. I'm sorry, I'm giving away who I am right now.
One more.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a simple question. Is Josh Allen on this team next year?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see. So I was in Nashville the night that Josh was drafted. And I go to the draft every year. And Nashville killed it, by the way. They did an amazing job. And I'm talking to someone on the phone. They're like, okay, you're going to go look for tight end TJ Hawkinson from the University of Iowa. Okay, great. I know what he looks like. I'm headed to the green room. And then whoever picked right in front of us, the Giants, took somebody. Josh Allen was there. They go, stop. Go find Josh Allen, right? And Josh was there with his wife. He was holding his son. And this was the day that the big Tyreek Hill news broke, that Tyreek had broken his son's arm, if you recall that. And so Josh Allen walks out onto the stage. No one asked him to carry his infant son, but he did. And it was such an important moment for the NFL because it reminded us that even though it's not a game for well-adjusted men, there are well-adjusted men that play in it. Josh Allen is one of those guys. He is a terrific human being and a really good football player. And I got to tell you, I talked to him last Thursday in the locker room. He's really disappointed in himself. He doesn't know why he's not making plays. And it's not because he's going into a big contract here. He wants to make plays. He wants to win. I'm going to tell you, you just picked one of my favorite guys in that locker room because he cares more than the average person should. You know, if you care more than other people think is wise, incredible things are possible. He cares more than anybody knows. So I do think he's here for sure. So, and I'm not going to run out of here. If you have any other questions or anything you want to talk about, let me know. All right. Thank you. Rotary Club, I guess this is maybe my first time here. I have never heard singing. That was awesome. Those people in Pontevedra now are going to be held to a higher standard.
In compliance with our sports time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate it very much. Right, in continuing our focus on sports for these 2 months, Join us next week when our speaker will be Malik Jackson, who is an attorney whose practice includes matters relating to the name, image, and likeness rules and laws that we're hearing so much about in college sports. It should be pretty interesting. As we end our meeting, please join me in the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. 1, is it the truth? 2,
Is it fair to all concerned?
3,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
4,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
I think that's